everyone. Welcome again to another edition of Where the 99 Leads. I'm Andrew Joyce, your host, and Where the 99 Leads is a program brought to you by the University of Pikeville, where we talk all things regarding the university. Of course, we talk academics, we talk athletics, we talk about opportunities at the Kentucky College of Osteopathic Medicine, community events involving the university as well, and joined by a special guest today who's been here before, Amanda Runyon, instructor of developmental English at the University of Pikeville. And Amanda, you've been a guest on the show before. We always have great conversation, but for those that are tuned in today that maybe don't know Amanda Runyon, let's introduce you. Let's have some background and how you arrived at the university.
Sure. I'm really glad to be back, first of all.
Indeed.
I actually did my undergraduate degree at what was then Pikeville College, and I did my graduate degree at Morehead State University. And since I've been here, there has been a change. I have just started a new degree. I'm doing MFA in creative writing and fiction at the West Virginia Wesleyan College. So I teach English on campus. I teach freshman composition. I teach Appalachian literature this semester, which has been wonderful.
Right.
And I coach the academic team, and I work on the Pikeville Review, which is what we're talking about today.
The Pikeville Review, our topic today, as we talk about that. And I guess before we go any further, what is the Pikeville Review, and is this the first edition?
The Pikeville Review is a journal of contemporary Appalachian literature. It is not the first ever issue.
Right.
The Pikeville Review actually started, it was funded by the Humanities Division on campus back in the 1980s, and it actually ran through about 2006, 2007, and then went on a hiatus.
Right.
So it's been kind of absent for all these years, and so we decided this year we are going to revive the journal, and so this is the first new issue.
Yes.
So it's the first issue in quite some time.
The Pikeville Review, the next generation.
That's exactly right.
Amanda Runyon, our guest, and you've joined us before. You've talked about your love for reading and for writing, of course, as an author, as a professor as well. I imagine this feels a little like show and tell with the Pikeville Review. You've brought a copy of the latest Pikeville Review. It's just been released. Tell us about this.
Actually, this just came out last week.
Very
so
good.
It is very hot off the press, brand new. We're so excited about it. This actually contains work from writers all over the area. It's not only local writers. We have writers from North Carolina, from Tennessee, throughout Kentucky. It has poetry, fiction, creative nonfiction. It's just some really wonderful work. We're hoping this is the first of many, many issues, but like I said, this is brand new, hot off the press, so we just kind of want to get the word out. We're very proud of it and the work that's inside. A
collection of Appalachian writers. I would imagine there possibly are authors. This is their first publication.
Absolutely. One of the things that we're most excited about for this issue is that we do have just a great collection. We have brand new writers who have never published before, and we also have some very experienced writers who are pretty big names on the Appalachian literature circuit.
Sure.
So this is just a great place for them to be able to give them their voice, to be able to get their work out into the world on all levels.
The Pikeville Review, a collection. How many different pieces make up the collection?
Oh, we have over 30 pieces in the collection. Of course, we have, like I said, some poetry,
right.
Several different poems. We have about 3 creative nonfiction pieces that are just outstanding, and then we have about 7 fiction pieces that are just really wonderful snapshots of the kind of literature that's being produced in the area right now.
Very good. The Pikeville Review, a collection of Appalachian literature, and our guest today, Amanda Runyon, who has a tremendous love of reading and writing as an author, as an instructor, as a professor. Amanda, the Pikeville Review just released, fresh off the press. What's been the response from readers thus far? And if someone's tuned in now, we'll remind them later if they want to get their hands on one, but how can they get their hands on the Pikeville Review?
Well, this has been just such an exciting time when it showed up in the office last week, so we're just now getting the word out. Dr. Charles Johnson, who is the co-editor of the book, he couldn't be here today, but he and I went to the Appalachian Studies Association conference last weekend and sort of had our debut. We sold several copies there,
Right.
met up with some of our contributors, and then coming home from that trip to just watch the reaction on social media. We've been tagged in several posts from our contributors talking about their pieces. We've been tagged by several readers who have just, been excited about all the work. So it's really just an exciting time to watch this play out on social media. But we are planning different venues to be able to sell the book. But if anybody is watching and wants a copy now, they can just contact me. My email address is amanda.runyon@upike.edu, or they can just call up on campus and ask for Amanda Runyon. If they're local, I can arrange a pickup delivery, or if they're not local, then we can definitely ship a copy to them.
Absolutely. And anyone within the sound of our voices viewing this program, regardless, you'll want a copy of this collection of Appalachian literature. I won't ask you to pick your favorite piece, because that wouldn't be fair to you or to some of the contributors. But I would imagine that you could give us a couple of examples of some excerpts of what we could expect.
Oh, I will. I definitely could not pick a favorite. They're all my favorites. But I will read just a snippet
Okay.
of one poem that's called Gallows Humor by poet Mary Ann Worthington. And this poem, I think the reason I want to read it is because it was a very beautiful poem, first of all, but it also kind of embodies why I like to talk about Appalachian studies and Appalachian literature.
Right.
Okay. So this poem is called Gallows Humor by Mary Ann Worthington. I cut my mother's curtains off the rods with the same dressmaker's shears she had used to slice the fabric from the bolt 30 years before. Her steady zizz of steel through cloth had once filled our closets with garments of her making, had once dressed our windows with lined linen panels and modest shears. My father's installation of the rods was a gibbet meant to hold. I couldn't tear them down, so I climbed the ladder, cut loose the drapes, and watched them shudder and drop. That's how they were, my parents, children of the Depression, fashioned to endure, unbending and stubborn as old posts.
Wow.
That's just a beautiful poem. But again, the reason I chose to read that poem is because when I talk about Appalachian literature and Appalachian studies in general, the reason it's so important to me is because it is that acknowledgement of our past,
Sure.
but also how that strength and our roots made us who we are today and where we go from there. And this poem, while on the surface is simply talking about her mother's drapes,
Right.
this poem embodies that. It talks about that nod to where we came from and where we're going. And I think that is definitely not just what we want to do with the Pikeville Review, but in all Appalachian literature in general.
Growing up in Appalachia, that immediately brought things to mind.
Absolutely.
Of growing up, of not only mothers but grandmothers' drapes.
Yes.
And growing up here in rural Appalachia, I can certainly relate to that, and it brought images to my mind, and that's what great writing does.
I think there's definitely something in this book, in this collection, that just about anybody can relate to. When we talk about Appalachian literature, that's really difficult to explain. It's not a specific type of literature, but it's something that people who have been here, people who have lived here, people who have just been touched by the spirit of this place,
Sure.
Can really relate to. It's not easy to pinpoint, but it gives you those images and it gives you that feeling, and this book is just full of
Absolutely.
images like that.
Amanda Runyon, instructor of developmental English at the University of Pikeville, our guest on this edition of Where the 99 Leads. And today's focus, the Pikeville Review, just published after several years on hiatus, and it's just been released. You can get your copy, and we'll have information on how you can get your copy a little later in the program. But we've already talked about it's a collection of a variety of different authors, some published for the first time, some well-known Appalachian authors. Tell us about a few of the Appalachian authors whose work is featured in this book.
Well, I just read from Mary Ann Worthington. Mary Ann has done great work in Appalachian literature for the last several years. Her book, Larger Bodies Than Mine, was actually one of the top Appalachian books a couple of years ago, won some major awards. We have work from Robert Gipe, whose novel Trampoline was just released last week. So that was something that a lot of people have been looking forward to. So we have him in the book. We have Denny Knopfseger, whose book Desire to Stay was nominated for the Weatherford Award this year, which is the highest honor in Appalachian literature, the Weatherford. So we have some just really wonderful voices. We also have work from a University of Pikeville alum, Gary Thomas Smith. He has a story here. And Kevin Murphy, who I just met at the conference this past weekend, and he told me, I didn't know this before, but he told me this was definitely his first publication, and he was so excited. And then I just got an email from him saying, hey, I got another poem accepted at Pollen Magazine, so this is just a great start for him and of something to come.
Sure.
So we have just a wonderful collection, a great mix of all these different voices in here.
Of course, the Pikeville Review is a journal, a collection of different stories and poems from Appalachian authors. Mm-hmm. How is it brought together? Who makes the decisions? These will be in this edition of the Pikeville Review. These need to be in this edition. Some maybe don't make the cut. What authors are and aren't included. How is the book compiled?
Well, let me tell you that is probably the hardest thing I have ever had to do.
Sure.
Dr. Johnson and I are the editors of the entire magazine, so we get all of the submissions and we make those choices.
Right.
And this first time, I'll just be honest, this first time we were worried, because it's been gone for a while. Will we get a lot of submissions? Will people send work? We had an overwhelming amount of submissions, which is great
Right.
to know that there are that many people out there writing and sharing their art. But it was so difficult to narrow down and choose. If it was up to me, I would publish everything because, I love to share that literature.
Right.
But you can't, obviously, for space reasons and other reasons. So it was a really lengthy process, a really difficult process to go through. And I think when we sat down with all of the work, we had to keep certain things in mind, again, like the length of the book, what would fit.
Right.
And then we also just try to think about what our mission was, and our mission is just to share contemporary Appalachian literature that tells not only the stories of the area, but the stories of the people today and, where we're going in our future. And so it was tough. It was really tough because we got some really amazing work. But I am happy with our finished product, and I do hope that everybody that submitted will submit again. Sure. Because we will have future issues.
I would imagine as you and Dr. Johnson go through the editing process and realize the huge response and the number of submissions, you immediately started thinking about the next
exactly
Pikeville Review. Mm-hmm. With this number of submissions, because of space, we can only do this. But with this overwhelming response, mm-hmm. we don't have to worry about the next edition of the Pikeville Review. Any chance this becomes maybe a twice a year published?
Well, we would love to do that. We would love to publish twice a year. We have some things on the horizon that we're planning for right now. And one of them, just as we're getting on our feet with trying to publish once a year, is that in the summer we are going to roll out an online component. Sure. So we'll have the Pikeville Review online, and that will feature work that's different from the print copy.
Right.
So we hope to have, maybe some of the stories that were maybe too long for this issue, or we just had too many, we can post on our online magazine. And we also want to do a student spotlight and a young writer spotlight, because I think it's really important. We have a lot of young people out there today who are writing and really putting so much work into their art at such a young age, and I think it's really important for us to be able to draw them into our circle as well. So we're going to go that route for right now, and then eventually we're going to hopefully work our way up to a twice a year publication, print publication.
The very popular Pikeville Review, and again, stay tuned. We'll have more information how you can get your copy of the spring 2015 edition of the Pikeville Review, a great collection of Appalachian authors. Amanda, you and Dr. Johnson just returned from the Appalachia Studies Conference that we've referred to, where your students presented papers. First of all, for those that are tuned in, for those that may not know, what does it mean to present your work at a conference?
Well, the presentation process is, these students or anybody can write a piece or work towards a project and then submit it to a conference.
Yes.
And if it's chosen, then you attend the conference and you're actually part of a panel where you'll go into a room. There are different breakout sessions at all times during the conference.
Sure.
And then you actually present your work. You actually read your papers. Our students, we had 4 students who presented at the Appalachian Studies Association Conference, and they had all written creative work. Most of theirs was creative nonfiction. So it was very personal essays about their experience growing up in Appalachia. They were beautiful pieces. I couldn't be more proud of these students. So they actually went in, they were part of a panel, they had an audience in a classroom, and they presented their work and then answered questions from the audience about their particular influences or their process while writing this piece.
Sure. Must be nerve-wracking in front of an audience.
It can be, I think, but it's just such a wonderful experience for them to get to share. I mean, I know what wonderful, meaningful work these students do,
Right.
but it's such a great honor to get to share that with a wider community.
The Appalachia Studies Association Conference held recently, Pikeville students presenting there. You were also asked to speak to a panel, or on a panel, with fellow Appalachian female authors. How do you use opportunities like that to encourage your students?
That's a good question. I was on a panel with authors Darnell Arnold, Karen McElmurray, and Jessie Van Eerden. And our panel was called Voice Lessons, and it was about finding your voice in your own work. So the 4 of us actually read pieces of our fiction and nonfiction and poetry, and then we discussed that and talked about how we write. And that's such a great experience for the students to see.
Sure.
As well, because it lets them understand that there's such a bigger community out there. I mean, once, we have all this work that we're doing on campus, but once you graduate, there's a bigger community.
Right.
And so it really gives them that firsthand experience. I mean, we talk about experiential learning, and this is the best method of experiential learning for them, to get out there and actually experience that and to see that we are also part of that community. So I really think that it's very beneficial for the students to be there and to see us participating as well as other authors, and for them to participate, and it helps them network and get their foot in the door and for future.
Absolutely, because the educational process at the University of Pikeville doesn't end at the 99
That's right.
steps. The title of this program, Where the 99 Leads. Of course, those historic 99 steps lead to campus, and lead from campus. They don't just stop there. They lead into the community and into the world. And of course, our Appalachian authors do as well. Why do you think it's important that students not only attend these type of conferences, but also be able to share their work?
I think there's so many reasons that it's important for them to share their work. It's really important for them to have their work accepted at a conference, because then that gives them that motivation.
Sure.
I mean, as a professor, I can tell them about their work and talk with them about it, but to get that outside motivation is wonderful. It
Right.
really inspires them to move forward and to produce even more meaningful work while they are here on campus. But also because, well, like I said in the last question, it gives them that networking.
Right.
They meet people who they're going to work with in the future, or that they're going to get references from in the future, or maybe even work for in the future. So I think it's really important for them to showcase their talent. We have such talented students on our campus, and it is so great to get them out there and let the rest of the world see that too.
Students that presented at the Appalachian Studies Conference, was this their first time presenting at a conference like that?
Well, we had 4 students go with us. We had Eric Skinner, Carrie Moore, Jamie Johnson, and Kaylee Johnson. And of those 4, Kaylee, Carrie, and Jamie actually just returned from the Sigma Tau Delta conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico,
Very good.
where they also presented. So that was the first one for those three in New Mexico the week before. So I think by the time they got to App Studies this week, they felt like pros,
They were all
because
pros at
that's
it.
exactly right. But I do believe this was Eric's first time presenting, and you would have never have guessed it. They just blew it out of the water. They were wonderful.
Once they're chosen to present at a conference like that, what does that do for a student's confidence, and might it change their writing?
Oh, I think that it does boost their confidence, and it does motivate them to want to do even more. You would think maybe, they got this acknowledgement and they think, oh, well, I'm good, but it actually inspires them to do more, especially when they get to the conference. They see the work that other students are doing too, and they see, the work that other people are getting involved in, and I think it just pushes them to do more and to write more.
Amanda Runyon, instructor of developmental English at the University of Pikeville, our guest on this edition of Where the 99 Leads. Today we talk about the Pikeville Review. It's a collection of items from Appalachian authors, poetry, short stories, both nonfiction and fiction. And stay tuned, we'll have details on how you can pick up your copy of the Pikeville Review. As you hear stories and poems from Appalachian authors, you'll have things that bring back memories, historical things, no matter where you grew up in Appalachia. Very relatable topics in this collection. Amanda, why is it important, as the Pikeville Review has been on hiatus for several years, why is it important to bring it back? And let's talk about what it took to put together this new edition.
Mm-hmm. I think it's definitely always important for us to celebrate our literature, the literature of the area.
Sure.
And literature does so much. It tells us, like you said, historical things. It tells us our history. It tells us about our people. Literature, when you look at a region's literature, you see what's important to the people at the time, right? What people are writing about is what's important. So we learn so much about ourselves and our own area just through that art. So I think for me personally, this endeavor was very important to me because I wanted to be able to celebrate that, to be able to, we have a really rich literary tradition in this area.
Sure.
Some very well-known authors have come from this area. We have people who have written about the area. We just have a rich culture. And so I wanted to be able to display that, to put that out there and celebrate it and bring in new voices and new people to celebrate with, such as our authors in the book. So I think that's why it's important. I think it's important to definitely keep that in our sight at all times. To bring it back, I think the first thing that we were concerned with and the first thing that was the biggest issue was just getting the word out, because we had been on hiatus for so long that we wanted to make sure that people knew we were back, that this was a viable journal, something worthy to put your work in. Because as an author, you want to know when you submit your work that it's going to be treated with respect, that it's going to be put out in the world in a wonderful way. So we had to create our face again.
Right.
And we did that online through social media. We got the word out. It's been so fun. And like I said, to hear people talking about the Pikeville Review now, or to watch on social media people talking about it is great. Our name is out there, which is wonderful.
Right.
And so then it was just a matter of gathering all the submissions and that hard work that I told you of choosing what actually goes in the journal. And it felt so much like Christmas to me since last week when the book actually came in, because it turned out really well and we're so excited. And I think this is now even more of the fun part, where we get to go out and talk about it and make sure that we get these in the hands of people who appreciate literature.
Sure. I think it's been nearly a year since you and I spoke about this coming, and you were looking for submissions at that time.
Right.
It's been a year or so in process, and here it is. It's gone to print. You now can touch and feel and read the letters on the page, and it has come to a realization. We know it was quite an undertaking to bring it back. But as you said, it's been a worthy effort, and now it's here, and now already looking forward to the next
That's right.
edition of the Pikeville Review. It is out. Copies are available to readers and those that appreciate literature, in particular Appalachian literature from Appalachian authors. What's next for the Pikeville Review?
Well, we're making all sorts of plans. We are actually planning a reading on our campus for the end of this month. More information to come for that. We should have some press out on that in the next week or so, but we will be inviting the authors whose work appears in this this issue to come to campus, and they will be giving a reading of their work.
Sure.
And so then we'll also sell issues of the book there. And then, like I said, we're going to start working on our next issue. Each issue is $10. It's $10 for the book, and all of those proceeds do just turn around into producing the next issue.
Right.
So we're just keeping our eyes on the next one.
Self-sustaining.
That's right.
Is the Pikeville Review. Been on hiatus, but it is now back. It's in print and it is available now. Amanda, we talked earlier how they could get a copy. If someone's tuned in and they would like a copy of the Pikeville Review, a collection of Appalachian authors, how do they get that?
That's right. We are working on an online ordering system, but in the meantime, people can just contact me. My email address is amandarunyon@upike.edu. My telephone number is 218-5345, and we can set you up with your copy as soon as you get in touch with me. We are also, Dr. Johnson and I both are out on the road taking them to different businesses. They will be in the libraries.
Sure.
So you should be able to spot our books somewhere definitely in town and throughout the area.
Get yours now while they last. The Pikeville Review may very well sell out and go to a next printing. I think it's going to be well accepted.
I certainly hope so.
throughout
So.
not just the community but throughout the region. Amanda, also you work with the University of Pikeville academic team, just about wrapping up another season. And how's the year been?
The year has been wonderful. We've actually this semester, the weather kind of interfered with our season like it did everything else. So we're actually shifting. We have 2 more tournaments that have been shifted to the end of the semester. So we have one in 2 weeks at the University of Louisville, and we have one at the end of April at EKU.
Right.
So we're still right in the middle of our season. We're not wrapped up just yet, but our students have been performing just wonderfully. And I'm really happy to say that our team has grown tremendously. We have always played a Division I team and a Division II team. Division I has juniors and seniors. Division II has freshmen and sophomores. And this year, for the first time, I have enough students for 2 Division II teams and 2 Division I teams.
Wow.
Yeah, so that is amazing. So we are just growing like crazy, and our students are coming out on top. They've been wonderful. They came in first place at the tournament that we hosted here on campus back in November, and it's a joy. They're wonderful.
Very good. Amanda Runyon, instructor of developmental English and coach of the University of Pikeville academic team, our guest today. And Amanda, always our pleasure to have you here. We understand your love of reading and of writing as an Appalachian author. We look forward to reading the Pikeville Review and that collection. We appreciate your hard work along with many others in that process. Amanda Runyon, our guest on this edition of Where the 99 Leads, a program brought to you by the University of Pikeville, the leading university of Central Appalachia. I'm Andrew Joyce. Thanks for tuning in.